What's up, Pandeez?
You're listening to the Pandesoul podcast.
Join us as we unpack the flavors of being Filipino
and American. We're your hosts, Dre Magix, the fictitious professor, and EJ Villaman.
And we hope you're hungry.
Because there's plenty to go around. What's up, Pandeez? Welcome back to the Pandesoul podcast, the funniest podcast in the world. I'm here, your host, the Dre Magix, EJ Villaman, and fictitious professor, along with our special guest, comedian, stand-up comedian.
Sit down, comedian.
Sit down,
comedian.
lay down, also sitting down, podcasting comedian.
Side face comedian. Give it up for Erick Esteban.
Hey.
That's been like a bit I've been doing because I do a lot more hosting.
Yeah.
I try and find a way to like mess up on purpose. If you're stupid, you'll think I really messed up. But if you like, know comedy and stuff, you
know it's a bit.
Yeah, you know it's a bit, and that's how like I tell who's fucking idiot and like who's like with me.
Right.
You know, because they'll be like, "Stand up," like they'll yell the right answer, and I'll be like. and then I'm like, oh, you guys are dumb. Like, just go along for the ride. You know what I mean? How's your special?
How's my special?
That's quality hosting. Right?
Point blank.
Yeah.
Well,
That's my style of hosting.
give a little
Shoot it from
lead
the
in to. Now, I filmed my first 1 hour special called Miscellaneous Brown in Chicago. Putang I just said 1 hour.
Is that 60 minutes?
Ignore him.
It's 50 minutes with also some behind the stage footage.
54 with
But I did. To be honest, man, I surprised myself doing 50 minutes. I planned to do 45, and then I went over, and I skipped. Pissed me off. I skipped the Mini Pacquiao bit, and I had a whole stack of Mini Pacquiao t-shirts.
Dang.
And I was like, damn, the one bit that I skipped is the one bit that's gonna cost me a stack of t-shirts not selling because motherfuckers didn't remember that I did Mini Pacquiao. And they're like, what's that t-shirt there?
You're like, oh look, a cool sponsor. Who's
that?
Yeah.
Is Manny Pacquiao here? Oh, that's Mini Pacquiao. They spelled it wrong. Because if I did that shit 13 years ago, and some people remember it, and then some people like don't. So yeah, so that was a misfire. But other than that, I mean, 100% honest, was like a dream come true. All of it, like being able to go home to Chicago, having a packed room of majority Filipino Chicagoans, and then I got a standing ovation at the end.
Nice.
I mean, I've never ever. I did my first professional play in 1997, and I've probably been on stage by myself a handful of times besides stand-up, but never ever in stand-up or my theatrical career have I ever gotten a standing ovation by myself. So for that to happen on that night with that performance and that show, it was a dream come true. So yeah, it was great.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations.
Oh, what now, host?
Wait, where are people gonna be able to watch it?
Yeah.
Well, it was produced by 4x3 Comedy and 4x3 Productions. They're out of Cincinnati. Shout out to Chase Crawford and Steve over there, my producers. They reached out to me on Instagram, so I thought it was like some kind of like let me wear your jewelry or like wear your clothing type of thing. Yeah, promo code type stuff, or like increase your followers type thing. And it was legit. And they were like, no, give us a call and send us your email, and then we'll send you a contract. And then they sent me a 10-page contract. I had my agent look it over, and the funniest thing my agent said was, I've signed deals worse at Warner Brothers, so go ahead and sign it. It's great. And I was like, okay, cool.
It's like casual name drop.
But
That voice was mad like ethnically.
That's my
ethnically
agent.
funneled into one.
That's Mark Scroggs, my agent. Shout out to Mark Scroggs, my agent. I signed with him out of Big Pine Comedy. Like everything that has come, I really, probably like 8 years ago, I really thought that, like I said, I did my first professional play in 97, but there was a time where I was dropped from my agent, and I was, I thought that it was over. Like I thought, my manager at the time dropped me and said, oh, you're starting to have kids now. Might be time to start thinking about other career alternatives. Like think about something else besides acting and doing this. And it really kind of sent me into a bad spiral. But then stand-up kind of pulled me out of it. Stand-up really did. Stand-up in 6 months of therapy.
Yeah.
You know, because therapy was what allowed me to kind of realize that it was stand up all the time. And then after my first stand up show, my dad said to me, he said, "You should have been doing this 10 years ago."
Dang.
And so, yeah, I mean, like it really, like the past kind of 5 years have been, each year gets a little bit better, and it's, you know, and that's all you can hope for.
Yeah,
each
I
year you get better.
remember meeting you. The first show we did together was at Flappers.
Was it Flappers? For what? For Owen Abaldo?
Yeah.
Was that what it?
Is
Oh,
that-
yeah, I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that.
Is it
I remember
Pancake
that.
House?
Huh?
Is
Yeah.
that a pancake place?
No, it was
No,
you're thinking of
Flappers.
Flappy
Flappers
Jack.
in Burbank. Flappers Comedy in Burbank.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And I don't know how far into comedy were you right there?
Probably at that point, probably like 3 or 4 years into it.
Okay. Yeah, because that was the first show I did in a comedy club.
Oh yeah?
And I'm like, I don't do stand up, you know? And so that was my first kind of, because I know that was your first Flapper show.
Yeah,
'Cause
that
you
was
were-
my first Flapper show.
Yeah. And then that was kind of my first introduction to that kind of venue.
And we started doing shows after that together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we stopped because you don't answer my text like Chase Family Market.
I answered your
Drop
text.
shade.
Dropped it all.
First of all, I commented on your video about Tagalog Kurt so that we could talk about that Tagalog Kurt.
Yeah. No, but yeah, we started doing shows and stuff, and then we had to navigate through all the different kinds of producers that produce Filipino shows, right?
Bro.
Like
The Kalat showcase.
yeah, the fucking Kalat showcases, bro.
Well, the Kalat showcases, man.
Kalat
it's
Kalat
nice. It's
Con.
nice that you call them Kalat showcases and you don't specifically mention the Kalat because, man,
Yeah.
oh man, like I just okay. The thing about me and comedy and performing and anything, especially when it comes to doing stuff with Filipino people, is understand that the only luxury that we all have is our time. You can make more money. You can, any other thing is replaceable. But our time is irreplaceable. And when you waste it, it pisses me the fuck off. It really does. And those Kalat showcases
Yeah.
are, unfortunately, a lot of them are, they make whoever organizes them a nice ton of money because everybody shows up and listens to everybody sing
Right.
and all the other stuff. But for the performers, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, if you're not paying them out.
Yeah, if you're not paying out, if you're not sharing the money that you're making,
Yeah.
then you know what? We don't. It was funny because like in Chicago, there were these folks that wanted me to host this event at Navy Pier. Now I don't know if you guys are familiar with Chicago, but Navy Pier is like one of the biggest, tourist spots. It's like a huge thing. There's like a huge stage,
Like the
equity
Queen
stage.
Mary type thing?
Yeah, like the Queen Mary or even Santa Monica Pier, something like
Okay.
that. Where
Oh,
there's
I see.
where so it's like there's a lot of restaurants there. It's like a touristy spot, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But there's also a big stage, right? But I also know it's a non-for-profit stage because I've performed on that stage before because I came up in Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
But this organization wanted me to host the Saturday before my special. Why don't you do? You can host. You'll only be there for 2 hours.
Exposure, you're
And
special.
Only 2
Wait.
hours.
Wait, and this fool said it would be great exposure and help sell tickets for your show. And at that point, I said, "Homie, my show's sold out.
No.
I don't need exposure.
Right.
You need me there to make your production level of your show higher.
Right.
So unless you don't want, if you want to pay me, you can pay me, but I don't get paid in exposure anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Show sold out, homie. I don't need exposure. I've been exposed."
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's like a level, the kind of artist timeline, especially. Well, I know the Filipino American artist timeline.
That
'cause
never
that's where I
never
am.
leaves, bro.
Right.
People still
Right.
ask Joe.
For sure, but the thing is, you start off with doing any show, right?
Anything.
You start
'Cause you're
off doing
hungry.
any show, yeah.
Right.
Because you need the learning curve, you need the stage time, you need the experiment time, whatever it is, and then you start, getting better, and then you start believing these exposure producers and their plays, right? And then you eventually learn out of that, and you start doing it for real money, or a little bit of money, and then real money, right?
Right.
I think I'm at the point now where I can still take the exposure play, but not for the exposure, but for the support. You know what I mean? Where it's like, trust me, I do maybe like one of them a year, but I'll do a show where I'm like, I know they're not paying me, but look, I support this cause. I need them to succeed also. And look, I'm making enough money on all my other gigs.
100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
There are people who, even if I'm making X, I'm always going to charge them Y, because they held me down when nobody was asking me
Oh, yeah.
Right.
or giving me X, Y, or Z, right?
Yeah.
So there's certain people, especially like there's folks in Virginia, in Virginia, there's folks in San Diego, there's folks in San Francisco, there's folks in Chicago that I will do anything for. And they don't even have to pay me in exposure or in whatever they want me to do. I'm going to lend whatever I can give to their situation, and I'm going to do that for them.
Right.
That's not what I'm talking about.
No, for sure.
I'm talking about the people who assume that
They're doing you a service.
they're doing you a
Yeah.
favor.
Right.
Oh, like
Because-
entitlement?
Well, and that's really what it always ends up being. It always boils down to greed.
Right.
It really does always boil down to greed and who controls who gets the money and who doesn't get the money.
Right.
Do you ever,
That's really all it is.
you ever get someone who's just like straight up ignorant and like just hasn't done their research on,
Oh yeah,
on you? And
the
like,
dude was
All
asking
the
me
time.
for the Navy Pier gig. He said, okay, cool, I'll pay you. Can I just pay you half your rate, your hosting rate, because my hosting rate is X, right? So I'm
sure.
like, yeah, I'll do it for half, since it's only 2 hours of a thing. That's fine. I'll do it for half.
Dang, just
Cool.
see.
And then 3 days later, hey, Navy Pier is requiring a proof of insurance. Proof of insurance for performer, for stand-up comedy.
yeah.
Really? Proof of insurance?
You're not doing any work.
See,
Don't
dude,
don't
I'm-
bullshit a bullshitter,
Yeah,
homie.
You're not doing work.
Don't bullshit a bullshitter, homie.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, you didn't want to pay me. That was the initial. You wanted to pay me an exposure. Now you're trying to find a logistical bullshit way to justify not paying me. And guess what? Cool. Now you don't have a host 3 days before your event.
That's
Right.
that's like you remember that one show we were booked for? Don't want to name names. We were booked for the show, and it was like, oh, it'd be a cool spot. We can hang. I haven't seen you in a minute, and it was like running 2 hours late. But what they didn't realize was like, we brought all the stand-up acts, and we're like, oh yeah, let's just all leave. So we all
Oh, we don't need to name names, but I remember that show.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because
And
we were
now
all
I'll
there.
never
We were
work with
like,
that
"Oh,
person
when are we
again."
gonna go up? Are you gonna waste time?"
Yeah.
And that was when I was talking about our time being the only luxury that we have,
Exactly.
especially as performers at our level.
Right.
Yeah, there are still shows and there's still exposure shows that
Yeah.
I'll do for way less money than I would normally, for sure,
Mm-hmm.
or even in some cases for free.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to. What we have to figure out as artists individually is we really have to start being picky and choosy about
Yeah.
those.
Has to be like
those things.
another
Value
value add.
value your
besides, like-
time and value.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like as long as you don't waste my time, I don't care.
Yeah, I also try to look for other value adds besides monetary. Like if the monetary budget isn't there, I'm like, okay, what other equivalent compensations are there in terms of like, oh, is this like a connection gig, or is this more of just like I need to try out new material, so I'm like, okay, whatever, it's an opportunity to try out stuff. So it's like low pressure.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, just trying to think of other ways just to make sure that
See, well,
come out
and for
ahead.
me now with like trying new material, that's part of what I wanted to. That's why I produce my own show,
right.
Yeah.
because I never want to have to depend on other people to have an outlet to try out new material.
Right.
So for me, I'm I'm lucky to have the brew yard when I had brew yard for 4 years, and then that kind of ran its course, and now I'm at the Good Night, and the Good Night is perfect because it's a karaoke bar, and the owner is a guy from Chicago named Todd, and he's really great, and the crowd is growing, and it's starting to build. I'm starting to maybe not make money necessarily, but at least I know that I have that 4 hours every second Saturday of the month to host and have free reign to do whatever the hell I want to
Right.
do. And that to me is, if up and coming artists, for me, that's because then you're doubling up what you're learning,
Right.
because everybody needs to know how to produce.
Right.
Yeah.
Every show is a bringer show. Every show, you're and to be honest, if you're a stand-up comedian, every show is your show.
Right.
Even if you're only doing 5 minutes of that part of the show, that portion of that's your responsibility to sell that 5 minutes. And if you don't bring people, or you don't at least do a good 5 minutes, or at least you know what I'm saying? Like, that's your job.
Right.
And so, for me, I needed to learn that and have that on a consistent basis in my life, so that I produce my own show. And I think that any up and coming comedian, really, especially now in today's market, it also is built in content.
Right.
You build content on your show, and you're also building yourself up as an artist, because you're there all the time. And then I heard this one thing with Kevin Hart said the best advice he ever got was from Chris Rock. It says, don't be local. You know, always figure. And so now that I learned how to do the show in LA, well, I know how to produce shows in Chicago because I already did that. So I've now produced it in Chicago, and then I'm going to Virginia. Okay, now I'm going to do it in Virginia too. Oh, and then now we're planning on bringing the show to San Diego. So like now the show's not even going to be local. It's going to grow into this national karaoke comedy show, and that's what. Nobody's going to come and hand you a check because you did one good TikTok video. Those days are gone.
Right.
That was a small window.
There was a very small window.
That was a 2-month stint.
There was a small window of time, especially during the pandemic, when all of our content was basically on the internet, where people who had money to invest in content were investing in internet content.
Yeah.
Right.
Those days are gone. The days of filming your special and handing it to Netflix and them handing you a check and putting it on Netflix, those days are gone too.
Yeah.
Because Netflix is trying to figure out how it's going to keep making money. All the stuff is restructuring. So now, if you're not building what you have to do, and what ends up happening, I hate to say it like this, but you build your own brand. It sounds fucking trite. It sounds fucking bullshit. But you have to bring something to the table in order for the people who are going to end up giving you that next level money, that next level of success. You have to bring something. You have to bring something that that's already made money. Like, you think Steven Spielberg would have called Joe if he wasn't filling out arenas? No.
He would have called me.
Right.
You know, he wouldn't have. He would have. You know, the reason why Joe Coy gets all that attention is because he can fill out a 40,000
It's because he has
theater.
all the attention, literally. Attention's not a bad thing. Like, on the internet, right?
Sure.
The numbers just equal attention.
Sure.
And that's the...
And unfortunately for most execs who are going to invest in your comedy or invest in a show or a format for you to make real money, that's all they look at.
Right.
Is the numbers.
Well, because those are the metrics that align with their purpose, right? They're like, oh, I need to make money. These are the people. If all of these people paid $1,
well, because because all it is they're thinking about clicks.
Yeah,
that's the business model. If this guy's getting a lot of clicks, obviously I can probably make a lot of money off this guy because I can get a lot of clicks off this guy.
Right.
You know, it's not about developing artists anymore. So that's why that's why I say you got to kind of develop yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you really do.
Yeah. So like during your, because I've seen like the growth of your career, kind of firsthand, right? Like, because we were fairly newer.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. I mean, compared to now, obviously, right? But there's just been growth. That's the nature of the game, right? If you work, you're gonna grow. You're gonna get better at your shit, right? At what point were you like, what are some of the peaks, right? What, like, the milestones of like, yo, I did this and now I can hold my head up higher because I've accomplished this thing as an artist. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, totally. Like there's a lot of them, especially in stand-up. It's weird because I used to get them a lot in acting, in the beginning of my career, like you'd be like, it's like almost like the universe sending you a message, being like, "Oh, bro, you're on the right path. Keep going." You know what I'm saying?
It's like a weird validation cycle, right?
And for a while in my early acting career, it was like, "Oh, wow, this is happening, and this is happening, and this is happening, and oh, it's just so cool, and it's all coming together. It's like a full circle type of thing." And then those full circle things stopped happening, and then I got dropped from my agent and stuff that I talked about before, and then stand-up started. And my dad said, after my first show in Chicago, he said, "You should have been doing this 10 years ago." I'll never forget that shit. I'll never forget that. Because my dad's not going to say, fully, like, "You wasted your time doing theater."
Right.
But for me, I needed that 10 years.
Yeah.
Because
it turned you into the person to be ready for.
Because, like for instance, like you said, when we first met, we were at a point where we were just starting stand-up, right? But for me, on stage, I've been on stage for 20 years. So I needed, all of it was everybody always says it, but it's the truth. It really is the whole journey,
Right.
But when what event really kind of opened my eyes and was like, oh, this is really what you're supposed to do, was the first time I opened for Rex. When I opened for Rex at the Ford Theater for the night of Pinoy-tainment with AJ and Apple the App. And
first of all, Filipinos, learn how to name your
I know
fucking
that.
events.
Anyway, no, yeah, okay.
It was a great lineup.
It was a great lineup,
I'm just saying,
but Pinoy-tainment was a weird. I get it. No, but when I opened for Rex, it was a weird kind of thing where you're like, you put them on this, like,
when your hero becomes your.
I don't want to say he was my hero because he was never really, and I don't want to say it like that. Like I don't want to say it in a
No, yeah.
But he was never. Eddie Murphy was always my favorite comedian, and then Jon Stewart, and now Roy Wood Jr. is like homie's like the callback king. Like he's awesome. Like that. Like now my favorite comedians are people who I want to imitate their joke writing structure. So like Roy Wood Jr. is awesome to me. But like Rex was the first Filipino to do it.
Right.
So the first time that I got to open for him, and like I got to hang out and have dinner with him, and talk with him, and the whole thing, and it was I was like, oh, okay, I guess I am one of the Filipino American comedians.
Right.
Like I am one of you guys.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah, like an initiation into the club.
Yeah, no, and that's really what it ends up being. And then also, like, anytime I do a show with Joey Gila or Ron Jossel or Justin Rivera or Andrew Arolfo, I mean, these guys have been doing it and they tour the country, tour the world.
Yeah.
Right.
And what was
Nothing.
He just
Shameless little plug.
whispered his own name.
Oh but for real, like the cats who like, when you look at them, like they've been on Comedy Central, they've been on the national stages,
Right.
or they've toured the world, and they've been doing it since I started doing theater. Like they've been doing it for a long. Like when you're doing shows with them, and they're giving you compliments, then you're like, wow, it's still a trip. It's still a trip to me. Like, yeah, I mean, I have a joke now about Joe Coy. I have it in my special because I set it up where I talk about how I'm so excited to be here with 4x3 Productions filming my first comedy special. I was telling my parents I tried to set it up to showcase funny Chicago Filipinos. This is the first all Filipino lineup here at Lincoln Lodge. Y'all know what my mom said? Will Joe Coy be there? No. Oh, okay. And then I responded to her. I said, "No, Mom. Your favorite Filipino American comic will not be at the show."
Dig.
I mean,
Ouch.
But it's
That's awesome.
it's just that is Joe Coy my mom's favorite Filipino comic? Probably. But but that's That's what we. That's
Yeah.
that's what
That's also like a mom thing where it's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna do this thing, and is so and so gonna be there?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
pick
No, they
the,
keep
like,
you humble,
this is
man.
my
they
thing.
pick the toppest motherfucker in the
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, shout out to Rod Pulido, the guy. He wrote he did Flipside the movie, and then he just came out with a book called Chasing Pacquiao.
Mm-hmm.
The title alone tells me what it's about.
Yeah.
Like everybody, like we're compared to celebrities.
Right.
Like
Dude.
and Filipinos and Filipino American culture are so star hungry.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
y'all remember when there was an understudy? She was like the swing. She performed on Thursdays for Hamilton. She was like in the original cast of Hamilton,
yeah.
and it was a Filipina. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, we have to cover her. We have to interview her for the news."
Yeah.
I'm like, "She's an understudy. I get it. All shout out to I don't remember her
Right.
name, but like, I was like, this is not a. I mean, I get it why you guys are happy and why
Right.
we're excited about this, but this is. I don't know. You like it's
Yeah,
good that
she's
we're
like not
there,
yet. Yeah.
but
she's close.
it's
but not there yet.
not. This is. It's the same thing as like when. Yeah, it's not the same thing, but like, when you put on the news that a white guy can speak Tagalog, it's not news. It's not newsworthy. This isn't a big deal to me.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to get in
Getting-
trouble for saying that the
Getting-
Filipino understudy wasn't a big deal. It was a big deal, but I think we make too big a deal out of things that aren't that big a deal. We'll say it like that.
Yeah, I wonder if the reason for that is because there's just this weird thing about Filipinos, like the older generation especially, they put so much value into things that are praised by foreigners, right? Like it's almost like the Filipinos, the tastemakers in the Philippine community aren't Filipino. Does that make
No,
sense?
they never are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's, I mean, I know that's because of
And
our,
no, but
our-
and you know that's not
hardwired
necessarily
DNA
the
and,
case, but it usually like even the Filipino tastemakers in our society are still they're only Filipino tastemakers because they've been validated by the non-Filipino tastemakers.
right. And I think it's time to start creating our own systems and creating our own just kind of systems and networks that put actual Filipinos in, not even in charge, man, but just like a trust circle of like, hey, this is probably good for us, guys. You know what I mean? Instead of chasing that, like, the fucking, is Joker gonna be there? Well, like, Mom, you go to church, is Jesus there every week? You know, like,
Yeah.
Yeah. He's in the tabernacle.
yeah, he's there and he's here.
I think that we are, this every minority culture goes through this, especially when it comes to like the acceptance into the main, lexicon of American culture, whatever how you want to say it, like until and to be included fully and like be a part of like the way I don't know like
To be invited to the white guy party.
well, but that's basically what it is.
Right.
It's like, and that's
But maybe
part
that's
of,
not the answer.
that's
Yeah.
that's part of what I'm trying to get at with the whole Tagalog Kurt thing, and even in the case of the understudy, all power to her. It's just we have to stop being so thirsty for stuff, and we're so thirsty for representation, and we're so. I mean, even in the case of like comedy, when it comes to Filipino pop culture references, there's only but a few.
Oh my God, he said lumpia in the show.
Yeah.
No, but it's like every Filipino comic is probably gonna do some semblance of a Filipino accent
Yeah.
or reference to
Like a
it in
nurse
some
joke.
way
Yeah.
because it's part of our lives.
Yeah.
There's only so many Filipino references in pop culture from the past 30, 40 years. So
Draft.
if
I'm just kidding. Don't
bro,
draft.
like if another Filipino comic 10 years from now mentions that, oh, did you guys know that because he didn't see my joke or he didn't see Rex's joke or he didn't see anybody else who mentions that Ewoks speak Tagalog, am I gonna go at him and be like, hey, you stole my joke? No, because that's a pop culture reference for Filipinos.
Right.
That's a point. That's like that's exactly like the Filipino understudy. It's that one little Filipino American reference that we have in pop culture
the donkey
that
dog.
we cling to it so hard,
Yeah.
and we want to put it up and showcase it because we don't have that many things to
Right.
show off. So even the littlest things, we're gonna bring it up and put it all up
For sure.
high. So for me, if a comic, like I said, 10 years from now says the Ewok joke and mentions that and then builds on it and puts his own spin on it, I'm gonna be honored.
Right.
I'm going to be happy that, put it like this.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like,
Oh, go ahead.
Like classical composers used to do that. They used to, as an homage, reference other composers, where they would do a quote of a melody to be like, oh, I know this guy, and then build off on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow that became like stealing.
But it's not.
Right.
Because in comedy,
It's an homage.
Yeah.
in comedy and improv, that's where I started, improv comedy.
Right.
Right? Second City in Chicago with Del Close, the dude who fucking started it. Like, the homie, the godfather of American improv comedy. Del Close. I was part of the last class. Homie died between 7A and 7B. I was the last class of Del Close. For real. I'm not, right? Yes, and.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only lesson you have in comedy. That's my only philosophy in comedy.
Right.
Is yes and. So yes, do I acknowledge that I'm not the first comedian to mention Ewoks spoke Tagalog in Return of the Jedi? Of course. I know Rex did.
Yeah.
But my spin on it and my yes and is I'm going to be the first Filipino Jedi.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's my joke. That's my yes and. So
Right.
am I stealing? No. I'm
Yeah.
It's a
acknowledging it
reference.
and yes-anding it and making
Yeah.
my own joke.
Yeah, I view all art as like conversation. It's an
Yeah.
ongoing conversation.
Because everybody steals from everybody. There's
Yeah,
nothing
it's-
original anymore.
it's influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if you're not continuing the conversation in the art, it stays stagnant and preservationist.
Have
And
you
then it
guys
kinda,
been
like,
following
dies.
the stuff with George Lopez and Ralph Barbosa?
No.
The
Which-
comedian.
which
So
stuff?
Ralph Barbosa's the new Latin comedian, just got a special on HBO.
Oh, is
Okay.
it the one talking about how George Lopez?
And George
well-
Lopez was on a podcast talking about, oh, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is.
Oh yeah.
And like everybody went at him because he was basically like, I paved the way for these dudes. I provided the model for them, and now they're all benefiting off of my jokes and my stuff.
That's
basically.
the point, though.
But that's the point.
yeah.
That's the point.
You're fucking mad you succeeded.
Right.
When you juxtapose that to a guy, when I'm listening to a podcast with Kevin Hart and he talks about, yo, I hang with Chris and I hang with Dave, and there's no competition between us. In fact, we respect each other enough to be like, yo, I got a new 1 hour. You want to watch it? I really want to know your opinion on it because I respect you and I
Right.
respect you as an artist. Like, that's what we need.
Yeah.
This stuff,
Right.
like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
when we talk about what is facing our community, the stuff that we don't like about our community, that's our job as comics.
Right.
And then our job as comics again is to help lift each other up and lift each other's voices up, so that all of those, collective voices from, the things that we want to, the messages that we want to display are
Right.
out there.
Right.
Yeah, it's I think the problem is because we're hardwired to look at the wrong solution or the wrong argument. We're so hardwired to look at the wrong thing, right? It's like getting into an argument with like a parent or a significant other. You know you're right, but they get mad at the delivery method, right? When you make the point, they're like,
You have to have
"Don't
respect
yell."
for my boy, for your
Yeah,
voice.
exactly.
Why is your voice so loud? Are you
Right.
angry?
Right.
Why are you yelling at me?
Right. But the point,
You're
Everyone-
triggered by that, bro?
everyone's
Shocking trigger.
yeah.
Why did you stop yelling? Maybe if you stop yelling, I'll understand your point.
Was that your mom or your girlfriend?
I
Which
just
trigger?
had one argument. This just driving here too.
No, bro, like, okay, I'll be real with you guys. Like, I've been called a failure by my family. Like, straight up, like you're a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a week before my special.
Dang.
They keep you humble.
Mhm.
And it's not even a matter of keeping you humble. It really ends up being like they say the worst fears that you have about yourself.
Right.
Oh yeah.
You know, and
they know too because they created them.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
they're the puppet master,
But-
and they show you a puppet.
Right.
But then it also forces me to look at it from like that's my goal now. I have 2 kids. I have 2 daughters. Like my goal is to not transfer that
Oh, of course.
generational
Yeah.
shit.
Like I
to
think
them.
our generation, I mean the younger generation, like the more further along it is,
The
it's gonna
second
be the
generation,
stronger-
the first
it's-
generation that immigrated here first, that were from the Philippines, their kids.
Yeah.
I,
Us.
I feel like us
Us,
and,
yeah.
and
And
our
X.
kids and the next
Yeah.
generation, I feel like are gonna have less of those burdens. But in as far as like
But we're the ones that have to break the generational trauma.
they're
Right.
us or my kids, and I don't want to give that burden to them.
Yeah.
I'd rather break it for them, and
Right.
it's hard, but it's also great motivation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Y'all
So
think I'm a failure?
so
For
necessary
real?
work.
Yeah.
Okay, well let me show you how much I'm a not.
Right.
Because I already know that I'm not. Even when
I
they
have
tell
such
you.
a chip on my back about shit like that for art, and I've said it, and like you guys know it, but I have a chip against like the film community and like the magic community. I'm the guy who I'm like, well, fuck, yeah, I'll do it my own. You know,
Yeah,
like if you
but-
if you don't want to support this thing, which I think is pretty cool, then like I'll figure out how to do it without your help.
Well, and the thing about it is, man, when you really think about it, okay, when you really boil it down, then you look at and you study history, who were the people that started change? Who were the people that really rocked shit up and who shook shit up? Not the people who were doing it the way that everybody around them
Yeah,
were
it's all
doing
the
it.
outliers.
It was the people who were doing it in the red leather jumpsuit and in 1983 when nobody was doing stand-up comedy like that, and that motherfucker did it like that and changed a generation of comics who saw that shit,
Yeah.
right? No one else was. I mean, he took what Richard Pryor did, the Sunset Strip, and said, okay, let me yes and that shit and make it into something even greater.
Right.
And now every other comic in the world of this generation is going to mention Eddie Murphy Delirious as one of those starting off points as a thing, right?
Right.
So like that was my first thing when I started thinking about my first special. I'm like, what do Rex and Joe and Joey and Ron Jossel and all these other cats and Andrew Arulfo, what don't they do in all their long form shit? What don't they do so that I can differentiate myself
Right.
and make myself into whatever? When they think about Erick Esteban and stand-up comedy, they think about these jokes. So what is it that will differentiate me from Rex and Joe and all these cats?
Right.
Like that's my goal. And so what did I do? I opened my special speaking in Tagalog. That's the gift of Tagalog Kurt. I got to give him his credit. You know, he showed me, I'm like, oh, if this corny Caucasian dude can get 100,000 followers trying to teach Filipinos how to speak Tagalog, how many can I get if I learn Tagalog with Filipino
I'm
Americans?
gonna learn Russian.
Nobody want to learn Russian. You better off learning Ukrainian. You better watch the news, fool.
I'm gonna learn both so I can
Go
I'll fix the
You're
problem.
gonna fix the
You
problem.
better learn Russian fast.
I'll learn it first.
Ni pani maya
Dre
Piroski.
wants to be the Jared Kushner of Ukraine.
Dre and Kushner.
If I were to learn a language, I want to learn something like shocking. Like this guy knows this language.
English.
Yeah, you might want to start learning English first.
No, that one's too hard.
Pass.
Pass.
Red na lang.
Holy crap. My nose is bleeding.
Dude, I mean, this episode could go on for days.
It could
'cause
go on forever.
It's just the conversation of like, where's the influence in the FilAm community? Where's the value?
Right.
Right? Because it's so cosmetic driven. It's so base level driven.
Well, and it really ends up being monetary.
Oh
It's
yeah,
monetary
for sure.
success. Because at the end of the day, the first generation and part of the second generation, really, that's the number one driving goal and force in their life is how much money you can make.
Right.
It's and I'm not. Yo, I'm broke. I can't. I would never wish this artist life on anybody. It's hard. This is a hard life. So, not everybody's Joe Coy with a private jet and flying and making millions of dollars.
Dude, okay, so I get invited to like podcasts and stuff that I don't host. They're like, what would you get the usual questions, right? What advice would you give a starting artist, or like what advice would you give someone who wants to start magic? I'm like, why? Why do you want to do this?
Yeah, no, I would be like, think of anything else that you would rather do first.
Yeah.
Because it's easy. This stuff is easy at the beginning.
Yeah.
When you're booking, or when you're not, or when you're learning and you're excited and you're a sponge, and this is all. It's when it gets hard, and when it gets
really hard,
and when it gets really hard.
That's what you said on your other movie.
And the people that you thought that believed in you are now telling you to stop, or telling you to quit.
Right.
Like, you have to be able to withstand that, and that's
for sure.
That's oof.
On those days, that's how you know you're fucking meant to do shit like this.
Right.
There have been a lot of days that the bad days almost.
Wait, there are days that are not like that?
Huh?
There are days when it's not.
Yeah, the only time is like during a performance, and during them handing you a check.
That's true.
Then it's all good, and then you
Cashing
go home,
and then paying,
and then you go home and you're like, what's the fucking next thing, man?
No, but that I was listening to this thing about how there's this weird like psychological thing after you perform on stage as a stand-up comedian, right? Where you're getting off stage and you're making all these people laugh, and then you go home by yourself, and that validation and that happiness and all that stuff that you brought. There's even the adrenaline that's rushing inside, you don't have anybody to share that with.
Yeah.
When I get home, my kids are asleep, my wife's asleep. I gotta play Xbox or smoke a joint to like chill the fuck out before there's nothing like it, but there's also like after a while, I'm sure I can't even imagine how it would be performing to like 50,000 people and then going home to an empty house. That's got to be a trip, So like, I don't know, man. Like,
have you had moments like that? Like, what's the one moment you remember that's as similar as that?
The first time I performed at the Comedy Store, because I got huge. Like, I didn't even it was the first time I improvised the what the Filipino Jedi said. Like, because how I wrote a joke where I was like, okay, I'm gonna be the first Filipino Jedi, and that's the punchline. And then they laughed at Filipino Jedi, and they laughed hard at it. So I was like, I need to add something here. What can I add? And then I ad-libbed the accent of the Filipino Jedi. I was like, oh well, I'll do it like this, and then I did made the force and all that shit, and it was the first time I did that. So it was like almost the first time I discovered creating a joke on stage as I was doing it. And everybody, it killed. Like, I still watch that set sometimes just to remind myself that I'm okay.
Dude, I do that so much.
No, but I remember after that performance, I remember it was the main stage at the Comedy Store. And I didn't know it was a bringer show. I didn't know it was bullshit. I just knew that I performed on the main stage at the Comedy Store and killed, right? And all I could do was walk up and down Sunset Boulevard. I couldn't even go to my car. I couldn't even. I just walked because I couldn't. Because I looked up. I remember when I looked up when I first walked into the building, and the first name that I saw, center in the black. How they're all written in white, Eddie Murphy. And I was like, oh my God. There was still that romance of like, this is the first comedy club I'd ever played, and then it's Comedy Store, and it's the main stage, and then I killed, and they let me go 8 instead of 5, and the whole thing, and like, all this stuff, and yeah, man, I'll never forget that night. Like, I can see the because it was a little bit misty, and there was like some rain on the side on the pavement, so you could remember, like when it's kind of misty and you say like it kind of glows. But yeah, I could see that shit. I could see that shit now, just watching and just breathing and being like, God damn, I fucking really did that shit. I really fucking did that shit, and kind of felt that way after my special, but not as much, because you almost not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It was just business, kind of.
Dude.
It was different though too, because for me, if I'd have wrote a script with that special, it went almost exactly the script. Like, I really can't complain about even one facet of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it was perfect.
Nice.
Do you have any feelings like that of just like doing a show and like feeling you're like fucking alone in the thing, man?
For me, I'm like most clear memory is when I did my like senior recital in college, because it's like a whole thing I organized. I wrote all the music. It was like a full hour. I organized all the rehearsals, all these ensembles, because it was like the rhythm section. Like I did a trio. I played solo piano, jazz trio. And then I wrote a string quartet, and then I had like a bigger ensemble. So it just kept adding. And then family friends were there, all like celebrating, and then putting all the equipment away, and then walking back to my apartment. My like roommate was like asleep. I was just like sitting in my apartment, seeing all the like congratulation texts and like that kind of stuff. And I felt accomplished, but I was like, oh man, I'm just here chilling.
Yeah.
Still like riding that wave, but then also like, oh,
Because
I gotta,
it always is like, what's next?
yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
for
okay,
sure.
what do I do now? So then it's
Yeah.
like basically figuring out how to best plan my career from that point.
Yeah, dude.
yeah.
But
Like,
you
I-
need those nights, man.
Right.
You need those nights.
I fucking remember my first self-produced hour, and it was like
When was this?
fucking like 10 years ago, man. That like I really felt everyone went out after, and I was like, I need to go home, right? And I sat there, and I didn't go home. I went to the hookah bar I go to, right? But it's just me smoking for a little bit. Smoked for like 30 minutes. I went home. I like the same thing. I saw all the texts in my phone, all the photos, all the tags.
Yeah.
Dude, I looked and I just like turned it around and I sat in my chair and I'm like, so I guess I go to bed now? Like what's the
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
what do I do? You know?
It's weird how you build this event up in your life to be this life-changing thing, and then after it's done, it's life-changing, but it's not so life-changing that your life has changed.
Bro. For sure. Yeah. And I think that's also like us as performers, after those moments, we went like, now what? And then it's like still continuing on that.
That's the reason why I
Right.
like to clean up after my shows.
Mm.
Like I'm the guy like I like helping picking up the chairs at the end. Like even if I'm the only one doing it. Like after the Magic Era show, so we make a mess. Everyone throw cards around and stuff. I'm like, dude, where's the broom? I want to sweep it all up because that's like my release of like,
Yeah.
this is done. Let me
More
actually
actively help
sweep
finish
out.
it. Yeah.
what I've done.
I don't do that anymore. I don't clean up after shit.
I know because you're fucking big time.
Yeah.
My assistant does that.
Yeah,
I don't have
okay.
a fucking assistant. Come on, guys. I don't have an assistant.
Is there any like? Do you have anything like that in your life where like, can you even compute what we're trying to feel at this point?
I think mine come in really small spurts.
Mine too, but we're not talking about that.
I think,
every
Are we talking about Ember Snow again, bro?
How'd you know? How'd
Yeah.
you know? It's kind of weird because when you bring up music, I was also a musician in like high school.
Dude, you played
I
saxophone.
know. We still need to figure
I'm not gonna
that
lie,
out.
guys.
We just found out he played saxophone.
Like,
it
last
still does.
last time we shot, like last month.
Like I don't like to like toot my own horn, but like
Yeah, you do.
Literally.
I was pretty fucking
Literally.
great. Like
You don't like to toot your own horn. You play the saxophone.
You
For
smack
goodness
your own
sakes.
puente.
Somebody ongoing.
but
Like
like
your own horn.
like artist wise or like musical wise, like the first time I felt that feeling that you kind of felt was I was a junior in high school, and like the senior person who had this solo during our marching band routine had to go out of town, so they had to like do this little it's not an interview, it's a rehearsal audition. See, this is how much
It's okay.
so
all
you have
good,
to
bro.
audition for that part, and like the people who want to do it have to audition like whatever the lick was, 16 bars, and then like
Did you have to compete in a parking lot and they honked the horn at you? And they flashed the lights?
no
That'd be cool as shit, dude.
dude, when I first saw that
That's
movie
drumline.
as a high school
I
version,
know it was drumline. I know exactly
Oh,
what
you
that
sounded
was.
like you didn't.
yeah. I know.
Are you kidding me?
Bro.
Are you kidding
Dude.
me?
One band,
One sound.
Come on, drumline.
I still say that all the time.
Oh yeah.
Give him some Flight of the Bumblebee.
Oh my gosh. When they started playing Earth, Wind and Fire,
Oh,
I was like,
over.
this movie. It got better. Not that great of a movie, but it still got better as someone who was
Drumline.
in like.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shut up.
It's that movie started the like trend of all the
Between
2000s,
Drumline and Stomp the Yard.
Stomp the Yard.
Oh,
You got
yeah.
Stomp the
served.
Yard was my shit when homie was dancing in the pool. Break dancing in the pool, in an empty
Dang.
pool. That was a cool ass visual, bro. I wanted to dance in an empty pool.
That was the one where.
Hey, guys.
Right?
TikTok. We just gotta find an empty pool. We got all four of us dancing in the
Oh,
pool.
yeah, that's
Right.
it. What's the,
I love the Mad movies.
That,
the Nick
No, but tell us your
Yeah.
audition performance. What happened?
Oh yeah, so like, yeah, when everyone, everyone's playing their piece and you're watching the conductor, like listening to them, and like you see their movements and how they like kind of accepted their audition piece. And then like when I went and I finished and I looked up and like you could just kind of see like that change in like body movement that they were like, wow, this is like actually really good. And like when I first got that feeling, and then like he said like, okay, you got the part, like it's just like such a great like it's ecstasy pretty
It's
much.
acceptance.
It's the best
Yeah.
drug in the world.
Bro, no, it
Validation.
validation and acceptance is the best
Give
drug
me
in the
another
world.
hit of that,
Yeah.
baby.
And I was just like,
Like,
this
there's
is
no
great.
other drug that will make you feel the way someone says when they like, I pick you.
Yeah.
There's no other better feeling as a human being than that, especially if it's something that you want and desire and want to be a part of. And then they were like, yeah, you,
Right.
we're going to pick you.
Yeah.
There's no better feeling. And so, like, for me, especially in my career, shit, that's the feeling that I've been chasing since 1997 when I
Forever.
first got in my first fucking play.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Yes, I played saxophone. Guys.
So on that note, thanks.
He's going to have to play saxophone for the,
Right.
the
No, we're doing an
podcast.
album.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
It's called. It's just a parody album of all Filipino songs.
Yeah.
I love
All the Philippines.
So the first one is called "Sexual Giniling." There you go.
That says it all.
Take that with you.
Take
to the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such
But
a
bring-
Filipino dad phrase.
But bring us to the bank too, though.
You say some dumb shit, you go, and take that to the bank. Like that
That's a
fucking-
check. You can cash that.
You can cash
Don't
that in
forget
the
to sign
bank.
the back.
Notarize.
Yeah.
Public.
Notary.
Notified by me.
Your cousin is a notary. That's what you should have been too, you stupid ass.
That's it.
At least he makes money.
Shit. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all here at the pandesoul podcast. Check out past episodes on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, all the social platforms. We're your hosts, Dre Magix, EJ Villaman, Fictitious Professor,
Wait.
Yeah.
and
Eric has merch.
I have merch
Oh,
for
you're
you.
late.
Oh, merch.
So
Filipino
I didn't
time.
realize there were 3 of y'all, so I only brought 2. But these are the first official miscellaneous brown comedy special commemorative enamel pins, and I'm gonna give the 2 of them to the Pandesoul podcast crew, and y'all can
Hey.
fight amongst yourselves to who gets them.
Thank you.
Body of Christ.
Amen.
And you guys can get them too by hitting me up on Instagram, and I'll send you one. There's only 100 of them, and it's limited edition. And I'm going to New York, and I need money, so buy me a pin.
Or
Buy one.
pre-order the next batch.
Yes.
Pre-order.
Yeah, we can pre-order.
Buy
the
a
next batch.
shirt. Buy pre-save the special when it comes out. Buy a
Wait,
hat.
where is it gonna be?
Well,
streamed?
I'm just
Or-
watch 4x3 on Instagram. It's one word, 4x3, all spelled out. 4x3 and 4x3 comedy. That's where they're gonna release the special. So follow them
On
on
their-
Instagram. Yeah.
Instagram
on
platform?
there,
or like YouTube or the different.
And
streaming
they also have a YouTube and they also have a TikTok, and I'm sure that they're going to be releasing clips on TikTok, Instagram, and all that. And then they're also going to be releasing I don't know if they're releasing the full special on YouTube or not yet because I haven't heard. I mean, who knows? It might
TBD,
be on
TBD.
a
TBD.
streaming service. You never know. Maybe, hopefully, put that in the universe that we sold it. and then,
HBO.
yeah. There you go.
Netflix.
He said my favorite one. Hopefully,
Hobo.
Homes box office.
Hobo. Come on, HBO.
The black
Hobo.
box. Black box is fine.
All right. Well, just thanks for being here. And as always,
Don't forget your bot one.
peace.
O sige na, Pandeez.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of pandesoul.
And check out previous episodes on Spotify and YouTube.
Thanks for laughing, and join us next week because there's enough pandesoul to go around.
And don't forget your baon!